The PDP is not having a field day. The PDP has just engaged in an illegality because the issues of the local government are issues for litigations at several courts. We have the case in the Federal High Court. We have one at the Court of Appeal and also at the Supreme Court. In fact, the last appearance at the Supreme Court, the matter was adjourned to the 18th of October or so. So the APC, being a law-abiding party, decided not to engage in that illegality. We wouldn't confer legality on an illegality. Even the governor himself had said in his statewide broadcast that the issues that are in court are of no effect, and one would shudder at why a governor who also is a lawyer would make such a statement, as if it is in his mouth to say whether the issues are of effect or are of no effect. They accuse the APC. The reason why the court annulled the election which we conducted 3 years ago was because we went ahead to conduct the election when the matter was sub judice. And the same thing they accused us of is what they have done now. So we decided to boycott the election because we want the court to finally determine one way or the other how the local government matter should be resolved.
All right, now let's talk about you. Mention CHIDI, LLOYD, and Nigerians quickly remember the viral video of you slamming a mace on your colleague. Do you regret that action?
Well, you know, that's 5 years ago. It was an unfortunate incident that happened on the floor of the Rivers State House of Assembly as it then was. We had a situation where 5 members of five of my colleagues, as they then were, invaded the house to unseat the leadership of the house, then move ahead to unseat the governor of the state as he then was, Chibuike Amechi. I recall, Ohi, that I was the majority leader of that assembly. And it behoved on me to ensure that nothing illegal happened on the floor of the house. And with the fracas that ensued, there was cause and effect. But it was something that it was an ugly incident that shouldn't have happened. But that's not the first time there has been such incidents on the floor of any legislature. It happens once in a while when nerves are high, when tempers are high. Members go out of their way to engage in fisticuffs. So mine is not the first. The first time. Mine is not the first experience in any legislature where there have been fracas. We've also had that even only recently, even in the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
CHIDI, this is Nii speaking and not Ohi. I have to correct you on that. Now, did you offer any apologies to Michael Chinda, who was hospitalized abroad for some weeks on account of your action 5 years ago then?
Nii, you also know that I was hospitalized because I couldn't have just gone into the assembly to start fighting. I'm not a psychiatric patient, neither have I had any incident of psychiatric disorder. There was cause and effect, but unfortunately for me, I didn't have a video because I didn't come to the assembly prepared. I am not a movie director like Chike Obi or Sot Apc or his brother Chike. They came prepared. They had their own cameras because that was something they had planned to do, to use 5 legislators to unseat, to carry out a civilian coup. And you know that was resisted. Even the Constitution provides that we must stop whoever wants to take government by force. So that was what happened. Michael Chinda is there. Both of us have since made up. He's also, currently, he's a member of the Rivers State House of Assembly. He's a member of the 8th Assembly. He's doing well. Hail and hearty.
All right, CHIDI. Now, the Rivers State government has filed fresh charges against you, malicious damage of the mace of the Assembly and the fray. What's your take on that?
Well, because it's a matter that is in court, as a lawyer, I'm trained not to comment on issues in the court. But if you insist, Niyi, I will tell you that that is laughable. The recent action of the Rivers State government is most unfortunate. Recall that Ohi, the first time I was declared wanted after the incident, the Inspector General of Police declared me wanted, and I turned myself in of my own free will. I reported to the Louis Edet House of the police here in Abuja. And after 12 days in custody of the police, I was returned to Port Harcourt. And after 6 days in custody, I was eventually arraigned before Justice Letam Yode of the Port Harcourt High Court, and remanded in prison custody for 1 day and admitted to bail on the next adjournment. And thereafter, the trial continued. But recall that the governor of Rivers State now was the arrowhead of the opposition against Governor Chibike Amechi, as he then was. He went to court. He instigated a suit in the Federal High Court, praying the police not to hand over the case file to the then Attorney General, the Honorable Wagu Bombs, who had taken over the matter pursuant to the powers given to him by the Constitution in Section 211. He had taken over, but was frustrated on how to continue prosecution. So at that point, when he noticed that the Minister for Education, as he then was, had a different thing up his sleeves, challenging the Constitution, he had to enter a nolli prosecute. A nolli prosecute means that they were no longer ready to continue with trial. And it is important to state that it is not the accused person that applies for nolli to be entered. So if a nolli is entered, if the prosecution says they will no longer prosecute me for an alleged offense which was committed on the floor of the House, and rightly so, Niyi, ab initio, I was wrongly prosecuted because the Speaker of the Assembly, by the Legislative and Privileges Act, the Speaker of the Assembly ought to be the complainant in that matter. The Speaker ought to write to the police to come and investigate, thereafter press charges. In this case, nothing of such happened. The police Suomoto took on me and decided to arraign me in court. And you know that fighting would have been between two people, not just one man. If I fought myself alone, it would have been something else. But they decided to single me out for trial. And sometime after the first nolli was entered, affliction arose again a second time, even when the Bible has said that affliction should not arise a second time. The governor of Rivers State, Governor Nyesom Wike, on the 16th of March of 2016, tried to reopen the matter by filing fresh information. And we continued the trial. Only for me to discover on the 6th of December of 2017 that they had entered another nolli, discontinuing with the same trial, rather. Now, I thank God for that. Every accused person who is relieved of the expenses of going to prosecute his case in court will naturally thank God. Niyi, to my chagrin, 3 fresh matters were instituted against me sometime in May. This is in May, yes. My lawyers drew my attention to the fact that they are hearing on radio, because in each of these matters, they have not bothered to serve me any process. I get to hear of it from the media that the Rivers State government this time has charged me for destruction of maize and Afre. And you know, in the destruction of maize, one would want to ask, who is the complainant? Is it the maize that went to the police to report to the police that, oh, Lloyd used me to hit his colleague? Because because following the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, a law which has been domesticated in Rivers State, there ought to be a complainant in that matter. And now, 5 years after, you are charging me for Afre. AFRE is a public order law, which means that the police would have arrested me fighting in a public place in order to deter others who will do from doing the same. Now, is the Rivers State House of the chambers of the Rivers State House of Assembly, can it be described strictly sensu as a public place? So these are matters for the court to decide. We have filed their suit. We are already in the Court of Appeal, challenging the fact. We have asked the Court of Appeal to kindly explain whether an Attorney General can review a nolle entered by his predecessor in office. So those are issues for legal gymnastics.
All right, CHIDI, on a final note, and briefly, please, are you afraid violence will rear its ugly head again as the 2019 election approaches? Recently, the court in Rivers was invaded by gunmen. What are your thoughts?
Because we know who invaded the courts. I'm happy that the National Assembly has set up committees. We know those who are the questions to ask are, who are the immediate beneficiaries from a crisis in the APC. So we know those who were found on amateur footage shouting, Buhari, this is not your state. This is not Abuja. This is not where you will come and do anyhow you like. And I know that Niya would want to ask you if any member of APC can say that to Mr. President. So those are issues for us to discover. Niya, I must use this opportunity to also tell you that nobody has the monopoly of violence. In as much as we want to do things accordingly, but according to law, we would not also sit down and allow one man to be junketing, threatening people across the state as if he is the dowager in the state. No, we will not take that. We will not allow anybody to intimidate any voter this time. Thank God they have made reference to what happened in Anambra State. That has been the last election in Anambra State is a model. So we want to call on the police, the INEC, and other security agencies not to be intimidated by anybody who thinks that he can hide behind the cloak of humility just to be spewing whatever he likes. The Rivers people this time around have noticed what governance is about. They have known which party will deliver on the dividends of good governance to them. They have seen through the lies of the present Rivers State government. They have seen through pensioners are in a position to say who they will vote for. Because since 2015 that this administration came on board, no pensioner has been paid. Those who work in the secretariat in Rivers State will know who to vote for now. Because for the past 3 years, there has been no light in the secretariat, and workers cannot access their various offices. The students who were hurriedly brought back from overseas scholarship abroad are in a position to know who to vote for. Their parents, to parents of most of the children who have become disillusioned now, most of whom have also taken into doing drugs, will know who to vote for. But the Rivers State is now poised for the APC, to collect. And that is why you saw what happened in the courts, where you have talks sponsored by the governor of Rivers State go to invade his own courts. We saw his chief security officer personally broke the gate of the courts, only to turn around to accuse the All Progressive Congress of that.